Quick disclaimer, these videos are meant for educational purposes only. Anything said or shown in any of these videos are personal opinion and my perspective. Trading carries a high level of risk, so anything done is your responsibility. Hey, how's it going, guys? Welcome back to the mentfx Private Mentorship. I'm going to show you guys just a backtesting session of what I do to test my own system, right? Of course, my system is refined to the point that it is because of the time I put into it and the experience I have using it. And I'm just going to show you what I do in my off hours, usually when I'm not either trading like actively or if I'm not doing anything in the mentorship. What I'll sometimes do if I'm not out or something and just at home, just to test a day, get myself back in the mindset, right? So what I'll usually do is I'll just add 3 random pairs. So here I'm just going to add something that I basically never look at. So we got stuff like like NZD, CH, yeah, sure, NZD, CHF. We'll add like Euro, CHF, sure. We'll add like GBP, maybe CAD, right? Let's make sure we don't have analysis on any of these. Okay, looks like we have an analysis on this one, so we'll close that one. Let's add something else. GBP, NZD, maybe, sure. Let's look at that. Okay, looks like we have no analysis on that. Looks like we have no analysis on that. Looks like there's nothing on this. So I try not to think about them too much because you want to be honest with yourself when you're backtesting. But again, like I don't really care about seeing the price because I'm just gonna follow my rules and look at what I'm doing, right? Just keep myself in the mind. So I got 3 pairs here, just random. What I'm gonna do is we're just gonna open a random, yeah, there we go, random number generator, and we'll go between 1 and 3. So I'm just gonna choose which one we use. Go over to that. We get a 3, so we'll go over to the 3. That will be GBP NZD. Right, all we're going to do is go to the 1 second chart. Really, I'm not looking at the chart. I don't really care. And then I'm going to click on the calendar and just go back as far as I possibly can. Just like this, right? Like I'm just going to go far back. It's going to jump me to the most recent price that I can use, right? So we'll wait a second. And boom. So that's as far as it can be available in the 1 second since that's what I used to enter myself. So that's where I'll start my test. Right, all I'll do is I'll click on just like that. Right, and now I can go ahead and test my strategy. So what I'll do is I'll jump up to the daily and we'll just start with basically a analysis or outlook of how I would normally approach it and then follow it like I normally would. What we're gonna do is we're gonna open up a 1 hour chart here. And since it's GBP NZD, we know that it's probably gonna be active during the pound or NZD times, right? So very simply, all we have to do is jump into here and go, for instance, London time. So London time right now for me is 10 p.m., which is 6 p.m. EST for me, which means I really want to look at probably the London session, which is probably going to be, anywhere from 8 a.m. till like 2 p.m. or something, right? So if it's 10 p.m. there, then 8 a.m. would be in 10 hours, right? So I just want to look 10 hours forward for my time. So it's 6 for me, 6 p.m. for me. I'll look for 10 hours forward, right? So that would put it at 4 a.m. my time, right? So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to find 4 a.m. every time. So I'm just going to go on this and find, because I have this set up to EST time. You can also, actually, we can make this easier. Instead of doing all that, we can just click on London time. Let's see if we can find London here. I don't see London. Let's see. Moscow, Warsaw, Stockholm. Maybe I'm going too fast. LA, New York. We'll just look for London here. What's London on? What is it on? It's on UTC plus 0. So it's just a normal UTC time. So it should be up here. There it is, London. Okay, great. So now we're on London time, right? I believe. Yep, there we go. That's London time. So now all we have to do, yeah, there we go. So it's about 8 p.m. London time here. And then what we do is we go forward to find 8 a.m. There we go. And we'll say our trading day will end around, let's say 1 p.m., 2 p.m., maybe 4 p.m. or something like 4 p.m. And then we can do that. There we go. So coming into that session is what we're basically going to look to trade on here because, it's just going to have more movement. Of course, we can test around those hours too. We can just, test it anywhere. But I'm just going to use those because it makes more sense. And for someone that's, maybe in one of those time zones, that's when they'll look at it. And it's also going to keep us out of the Asian rollover session, which is, as you all know, from 5 to 6 p.m. EST time. So it'll just keep us out of that and not have to be dealing with that. So it can be, real results of what you would have done. And I don't know if it's going to be wins or losses. It doesn't really matter, or break evens. I'm just going to show you what I do just to backtest a pair, right? So what we're going to do is we're going to work our way up to the daily and just take a look at where we are, right? So very quickly, what I see is some kind of big up move, right? And then I'll follow that through and see where the most recent breaks of structure were. So we have this break right here, and that made this high from this low for me, right? We have this impulse, low, high, and then we just broke that down. So we have a really big impulse here, which means we're bearish, but we're in a very large impulse, and the S&D that caused that clearly is somewhere up here. Now again, I could go between some time frames now and refine this, but it's not really important. We're really far from it, and there's really no real chance that the next candle either wicks up here or down here. So this is far out, and for a swing trader, you just set your alert and walk away, or go and refine this and then set your alert. But for me, that's all we know, is that we have a bearish higher time frame bias. Jump down to maybe like the 4 hour, take a look at where we are. Clearly, as it shifted bearish, it remained bearish for a while, testing some zones, and then broke this down, made these lows right here, never ran it, so we're still in this big range right here. And basically, if we get longs, it makes a lot of sense to see price come into here or here, right? Just makes most sense on the top side. Now, again, we can go to a lower time frame to refine that, but I really don't think we're going to get that big of a move during these times, so we'll leave these out and just look at what's going to occur during this time. So we'll go to an hour and see what's going on. So it looks like last week, or whenever this was, it broke that low just like that, made a range right here, came up, gave you potentially entries here, 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 or here, right? And then came down and failed to deliver to the low, or actually it actually just tapped the low, so it was a great trade, right? But we're still in that range, and it's still finding itself at that range. So what we're going to do is, coming into the session, so we're going to play this forward until we're in that session, just to make sure we are. Oh wait, actually, 14th of March. Wait, does this even exist right now? So you want 8 a.m. right here on the 15th. Yeah, I think it'll exist, because what time is it in London right now? It is current time. What's it in London right now? It's the PM. Okay, yeah, so we'll be able to look at this trading day. Cool. So what we'll do is we'll play this forward just until, the session would have came, because I don't really care about this until we're in the session. And what I'm basically looking for is, just before the session, if price is here, I'll probably be coming into it with a bearish bias, and then we'll take a look at other time frames to see what that's like, right, with the overall move down here. But we also know we're part of this higher time frame push right here, so we're not going to forget that. And basically, if we see it doing something like this into that session, we can take a look at the 15 whatever session to start looking for the longs during that session, right? So we're just coming in with the understanding about where we are overall in the picture. Now let's play this forward to just before London session. So this is all good, right? So there we go. All right, so we're in the London session now. Clearly, as we come in here, just an hour before starting, right, we see this liquidation and break of structure now. So we're officially shifted our bias to the top side right here, right? Just like that, very simple. I don't know why this is so large. I'm just gonna make it normal and small. There we go, very nice. So clearly a shift of structure, and that shift of structure should make its way up into here or here, which we don't really care about. We could refine right now, but it's really not important until we start getting closer. I don't really care about it. All I know is we've broken this structure, and that break of structure, right, just following along with the overall impulse, came from somewhere down here, right, to make that high. And then we'll follow along with the mitigation, right? So if we follow it, last down moves, right, last down moves, makes that imbalance, comes up, fills that in, right, begins to go, fills, and continues. So really this entire push came from, to create this structure break, it came from right here, right? So what I'm looking at there is we have this down move, it takes off, that would have been the down move, right? But then you see this wick come in and then take off. So really you could use this right here or this right here. So we're just gonna refine that now by jumping around a few time frames. Let's go to a 2 hour, just see where we are. So 2 hour has, you can see, this makes it the most prominent zone, right? That's the last move down, or we could call it the triple M, that came to liquidate some lows, come and tap into whatever was unmitigated inside of here on maybe a lower time frame, right? So we can just see that in fractals. There it is, right? So it came to hit this unmitigated portion of this range right here. So you have this break on the inside right here, came back, liquidated the lows, but also tapped into the S&D, and then from there took off. And you can see that as part of this 2 hour move right here as a refinement, right? So I didn't know that we were going to refine to this, but during the session, it makes the most sense to see this come and hit this, at which point, if maybe it comes and hits it early, we can begin to look for those reasons to go long, or maybe it comes deeper into it and we can look to go long. But coming right into it, we'll look to short down into this overall zone, right? And the overall bias is going to basically be to see price come into here or come and hit this high, right? And what you could do is, if you're like normal traders, you could just set an alert here and wait for it to get there and see, if there's a trading day for you to have there, or you can begin to follow it on these lower time frames. Now, just looking at the 15-minute, right, we can follow this inside structure up that came up, and it just broke this down, right? And then upon breaking that down, you can see it broke it, had this S&D, came to tap the S&D with the triple M candle, and broke right down. So really right now, the whole move, this whole bearish move, you know, it still wants to continue bearish, it probably will, but it's being held down by this wick right here. So that's the last unmitigated portion of that. We can go and refine that a little bit. We jump down to that 5 minute, right? You can see that that 5 minute becomes this right here, and that gets tapped perfectly. So there's really no mitigation that I like in that sense, but you can see we have a very nice short bias coming into it. We'll go to the 1 minute now, and we'll let the session start. So boom, there we go. Session has started officially, right? As we look at this, we'll now basically create a story about what's happening, right? We know, and we just remember that overall we are very bullish on this market. We're in a so already you should know what's going on between time frames. I know that my daily looks like this, right? I know my daily is in a huge impulse, and we're just somewhere here. At the same time, if we zoomed in, the 1 hour just had a great play last week, made those lows, barely tapped it, and then came and broke that high just before this session right now, right? And now it's created an area that it can follow through on with mitigations, and right now price is right here. So the overall assumption coming into the session is to see that zone, which is this guy right here, come and get tapped, right? So you can see that even though I'm on one time frame right now, and even though you might see a lot of my entries on the 1 minute chart, and that's all I'm looking at, right, and maybe talking about, the reality is I'm constantly looking, and well, not even looking, but just remember what's going on in the higher. And that's also one of the reasons that as a scalper I prefer to only use one pair, right? Because I constantly know what's going on. So right now, that's what I know is occurring. I also know that we have that range set up, right? That we've mitigated. So even though there's some unmitigated portions there, and we'll take a look at that in a second to see if we can make sense of it. For me, it just makes the most sense to see this continue short into the start of this session, right? So as I take a look at this, we can see that just from the start of the day, right? Price came up on this bullish structure and broke down bearish, right? So that was your break bearish. Then it actually just kept breaking bearish, came up, you can see it made this high, like this liquidation of the candle, and then broke bearish again. So that's kind of your double MB setup, right? So you could have been looking short there, but once again, this is an idea of, you know, I'm not trading before the session, just in this example. So I'm not going to look inside of here and see what happened. But nonetheless, price came back up, tapped into some S&D mitigations there, right? Making itself intermediary term bullish, right? Because we're still bearish from the idea of this double MB, which comes from the section 5 material or section 4 from my strategy and my setup, right? So if you haven't seen the other videos and stuff, and the rest of the course is going to become very confusing, but this is section 5 material in terms of what I look at from a double MB perspective of shifting price, even if it doesn't tap in, and then the areas that you can be a seller from within that move. And then this also you'll see in section 4, determining my state, right? So even though this is a break of structure, for me it's intermediary, and you know, it would have made more sense to come and tap into here and then go short, or like into here. It's a nice area, but it didn't. Nonetheless, it became bullish and then reshifted bearish. So now there's a triple MB shift bearish, maybe an MB cluster kind of thing going on where it's shifting bearish, right? So we get that MB1, it comes to test that 15 minute, and boom, breaks down again. So that's an MB2. Now, if we follow that just from there, you can see that that MB2 comes directly from right here, and then we can refine that, right? So you can see that tap. So really it just gets refined to here. And at that point, you know, this candle, I mean, it makes some sense, but there's just this area right above and huge imbalances, and that's still part of this double MB from section 5, section 4 material. There you go, right? MB1, MB2, just like that. There's your double MB. So here and here is valid, right? So we could refine this up to right there as the S&D. Right, so again, you can see how and again, I do this a lot quicker, but I'm trying to do this slower to show you guys what my mind kind of does as I look at this. Now I'll switch back up to just double check what I'm doing up here, right? That's that 15-minute wick now, as you can see, being refined. So I don't really care about the wick anymore. This just makes more sense as part of this bias as we're coming into that, right? We play down to the 5 minute. Yes, we have that mitigation, but we now know that there's an unmitigated portion of that double move. That makes sense to now have a move down, right? And that's also part of seeing this overall push. So now we have a good reason to go short here and to go short here, right? So what we're going to do is that's going to be what we, you know, basically come into this market with. And again, this might just fail right through, and that's fine. I'm just going to show you exactly what happens. Maybe we'll have no trades at all today on this specific day, but now we'll jump around maybe between a 2 minute. Just take a look what's happening. So kind of same thing, right? Becomes bearish, fails to go above, right? So now I'm making the story the same way, right? Fails to go above, absorbs the high, breaks down, comes up, mitigates the inside of that S&D, the one that made the break happen, came down, broke structure, came up, failed to mitigate up inside of here, but now we have a refined version inside of there. So I'm still going to leave it to that refinement. Follow it through, comes up, makes that high, also breaks down. So again, a similar double MB here, but there's more MBs up here. So I'm not going to use this too much for refinement. However, you can see that 1 minute gets perfectly refined to this triple M, right? So you can see that that's triple M. And you can include this, but what I'm going to do instead is I'm going to leave it at the 1 minute, go to a 3 minute, just play around with this a little bit. You can see it's probably the same thing, right? So price comes in, relatively bullish, breaks down bearish, comes and absorbs the bearish break, breaks again, comes up, hits the wick of that, doesn't come up higher, which is fine, breaks down again, comes up, and breaks down again. So this zone's making a lot of sense. This refinement of that 1 minute is also the wick on the 3 minutes. So, you know, I like the zones and I'm happy to use them. So because under my understanding, this just makes sense. So as a result, I'm happy to use either if price does trade back up into them. So we'll go to the 1 minute now, and now we'll look for price to trade up into it, right? Similarly, if price just breaks down, there's nothing to do there. So we'll watch for price to do that. There we go. So price shifts again. Not interested in either one of these, right? So just like that, you can see how quickly that, you know, I might put a lot of thought, or you might see me put a lot of thought into a zone, and just like that, it can be invalidated, and that's fine. Just recognize that, because the second you start to you start to worry about why your zones aren't holding, especially if you're doing all this analysis, then you know you think you're missing stuff, and then you start entering trades. You shouldn't. You know, it's done, right? So then we have a new breakdown right here, and you can see we're testing the triple M that basically caused that break, right? There's that just unmitigated portion. And if we keep following that, there's an unmitigated portion right here as well. So, you know, price can still come up here and give us that short. However, it's becoming less probable since we've had a, you know, MB1, MB2, MB3, and they're all far apart from each other. We're not getting nice like MB clusters as I like to see, right? Like that. So this is probably, just based on my own expertise, going to fall off into here. And if that's the case, what I'm going to do is I'm going to see if there's a reason to go short on an even lower time frame, right? So what I mean by that is we go to a 30-second, and you can see now we had this break a structure higher, and then we just came and broke down right here, came to test it, broke down again. So right now we might be in a scenario where we might get to be able to see a sell, right? So I'll go to a 5-second and see if there actually is one, right? So here what I'm seeing is on a 5-second, price comes down, break structure bullish, re-breaks bearish, that's 1 MB, comes up, breaks that, so now we have a double MB, which means we're valid to go short from here or from here. So I already missed that, sadly. So if price comes back up here, there's a nice trade, but I've already missed this. There's a great trade in here. We'll see if it delivers to that low. Otherwise, if it comes back up, we can look for a trade inside of here. So let's take a look. Yep, so that just breaks down, so nothing to do there. Unfortunate. If I followed that a little bit, if I just went down to a lower time frame, that would have been nice, but I think this should just fall off and come to the lows. Yeah, so that should now just come down to there. Yeah, so it starts going much lower, starts building a little range. We'll go to the 1 minute here, right? You can see the 1 minute is holding that nicely. Here's that mitigation. You could look here for another entry, but I'm not going to do that. I still like this zone, so this is the only one I'll consider for another trade, but right now we're getting really close, so there's a good chance that we just do something like this and just deliver to the low. And then we can look in there for the rest of the... So we have a long session here ahead of us, so we're good to go, right? So there we go. We come and deliver into that. I no longer care about these zones up here anymore. All I know is that it's bearish right now coming into there, right? So you can see that I'm right a lot of the time. Doesn't mean I'm going to get an entry. You can see there was a beautiful entry inside of here, right? If I was just watching this, you know, if I was just doing it better with the replay mode, this was a great trade. Because, you know, we saw the triple M, we know something's going on in there. We go to that lower time frame. You saw how beautiful that setup was with the double MB, but that's okay. We miss stuff. I miss stuff all the time, so we'll just continue going, right? We have the low made by this high. We want to see a shift and then some kind of continuation up if we get that. Otherwise, we'll just watch for it to keep going. Now, once again, a lot of people already might be looking inside of here for those shorts. I mean, you can. It makes sense. We can definitely come deeper into the zone. Oops, sorry. But for me, I'm not interested in it. I'm looking for the most probable in my idea of what price should do, right? And again, this is just, you know, I'm doing a random backtest of a random pair for just today, and you know, there's a good chance that there might have not been a trade today. So that's also a thing that happens. But we'll see what happens. So we're just gonna wait for a clear break, right? So you can see no break yet. I'm just waiting for a clear break of structure up. I don't really care about any of this price. Just waiting, right? So again, nothing yet. It's just playing around, and then boom, we get a nice little clear break right there. So we're gonna draw that in just so you guys can see it. And once again, we have to ask ourselves, where does it make sense that this break is coming from? Now, again, some people might say here, but you see this large pullback right here. That's where I know the low is coming from. So, you know, we started highlighting here, and you can follow this along. You can see everything's mitigated up until literally this candle. So this is one of those examples where even though, you know, there could be a nice trade from here, it doesn't really make sense for me to use it because it's too small. Now, this is where I will still step down a time frame just to double check. Maybe there is something that, you know, maybe something does set up nicely, but even with the 5 second, right? The 5 second was bearish and just shifted bullish. So the reality is, even if we get a double MB here, we've tapped the 1 minute, but we've also shifted on another time frame, and there's a higher chance it just comes and takes me out than it continues with me in my direction. Now, if this setup happened here instead, and then price came into it, now that's a setup I can take, right? So again, there's even though the setup is very simple, right? I will still stay out of certain trades if they just don't make sense to me, right? If there just isn't proper RR to be found in them, right? So there you go. Here's that tap into that zone and the continuation, and that's okay. We're gonna let that play out. So that's your MB1, and then boom, we get a break up. So that's your MB2. Now we can actually start to, you can see it barely missed the mitigation of that black candle right there. So I'll just increase that. There you go. Barely missed it, just to show you very quick. We'll zoom into that. There you go. Just a small area there. So that is valid. And if price taps into there, we can actually consider to go long, because what we have is we have an MB1, MB2, and now it is following through and holding the mitigation of the previous MB. And now if we have a reason to go long in here, maybe it taps in a little deeper. It's really nice. Or maybe it even flies a little bit higher and then taps in which case we have a good amount of space to basically get involved as we do that, right? Otherwise, we're just going to see it break back down, and we can wait once again for the same trade and see if we can get an entry from this area. What I'm going to do is I'm just going to let it play out and see if we get a tap into there, right? So there we go. Nice little move up. Now, hopefully we come back to tap into that zone. Nope, instead we come up and break a new structure, right? So at this point, we're getting into MB3 or MB cluster material. So I'm not really interested in continuing to hold off for this or this, right? What I will do is, because of the fact that we've had kind of this minor mitigation and then this MB1, MB2, or more MB1, minor mitigation, MB2, no mitigation, and now a new MB. It's kind of a triple MB. The fact that we had this hold, I'm still going to consider potentially confirming this area here. Right, so I'm still seeing this as the break. I still will consider to play off that MB if we get that move just like that, right? And what I'm also going to do is I'm going to step up a time frame just to double check what's going on, right? So the 2 minute, you can see, does the same thing. But now the 2 minute is still making this move up from this point here. You can see that, right? It breaks that structure, and it never really makes a down move. You can see all these wicks. It's just wicks, right? So for me, wicks are just liquidity. I don't use them as a structural play. So I'm just waiting. I'll go to a 1 minute. You know, this zone got mitigated, so I don't really see it as the 2 minute zone that I want to use, right? It's not really important, but it's still part of this and what's occurring there. So we'll just make this a mitigation so we don't actually get confused. I don't want to trade off this, but I want it to create my bias, right? So we'll see if we get a tap into there now. So price comes and taps into it. We can jump down a time frame just to see where we are, right? So we know we're in that bias now. Now again, at this point, I know that, you know, some of you might be watching it. If I asked you what's going on across all time frames, tell me right now, would you be able to do that? And the answer is if no. If you can't do that, so pause the video and try to do that. If you can't do that, then there's a good chance that smaller time frames are not for you, because what's going to happen a lot of time is you might get really confused, or you need to spend more time on them, right? Because still at this moment, right, I know exactly where I am in this overall market. If you ask me, Anton, where are we in this market? I'm going to tell you we're in this daily impulse. Prices around here on that daily impulse, and it's probably heading back up here, but we don't know if it wants to do that. Within here, we've had an hourly range that was bearish, and just now, after about a week, shifted bullish. Upon doing that, we are looking for price to come back into this zone, which mitigated, right? So really the zone's like somewhere up here as part of this bullish range. And as price is going short into here, right, we're looking at all the 1 minute, and we were looking to sell into it. Price just got down here and began to shift bullish, broke a few times, actually made 3 MBs, so a few MB clusters, mitigated one of the MBs, so there is some kind of order flow holding. It's still showing us that it wants to go bullish, but at the same time, we weren't able to get a nice trade there, and it didn't tap deep into the zone, so I know it could still come back deeper. Now, at the same time, as we're looking at this, and those 1 minutes are shifting, because of the fact that we have this MB cluster idea, and because of the fact that the 1 minute made that mitigation earlier and then broke, I'm still happy to use that next part of it right here to now continue going long. And now we're on a 5 second within the third MB SND zone, and I'm going to look to go long inside of there to continue clearing the highs and to continue delivering to potentially the next high of the overall range from here to up to wherever, like here, right? So again, this is important because, you know, when you forget what's going on and why you're in a move, right? So notice how even on the 5 second chart, what I know is happening on the higher time frames is judging how I'm going to be looking to get involved. Now, that said, right now, all I can see is that this high made this low, and all I'm looking for is the break of that before I even look to confirm it with a 1 second for myself, right? And again, this also depends on what your confirmation is. Some of you might be looking at a fractalized MB and already waiting for this to trade above, right? That, and then just to buy that. And that's fine. If you do that, that's perfectly fine. Just realize there's different statistics associated with doing that. Both work. Both are great ways of trading. Just recognize that and continue, right? So we're just going to let this go and see what happens. So it comes down, just playing around this area. If we get a new low, I'll use this high as the range. But right now, I'm still seeing this as the main range, right? There's no reason not to. I still see that as the main push down. And we're still inside of that, remember, that 1 minute area, right? There you go. That's that 1 minute S&D zone. Again, we can refine that just like that, right? Just that's the area we drew in, as you guys remember. Go back to the 5 second here and keep following it, right? See if it gives us a new low. Nope, just plays around, just waiting, right? So I'm just, at this point, I'd just be waiting for this to break, and then just to trade off that area. That's really it, right? So there we go. We break down further, so now this area can move, right? So in this case, as we follow the highs, I like this high. It just makes sense, right? You have the liquidations of candles, the breakdown, a few wicks, and then just the breakdown. So it makes sense that a price trade above here that I can then look for the longs. But right now, nothing to do, nothing to really see, right? Now, we know this is the 5 second chart, right? And the minute will end. So you can always see it down here, but the minute will end at that candle, right? So if we know it ends down here, then that's the 1 minute invalidating, right? So right now it's still valid. And at this point, it's still valid, right? Why? Because we know if we switch to 1 minute now, right? There you go, right? It doesn't it actually liquidates the low here. So maybe I wouldn't have used this then. It might have been different during the time we'd be watching it, just because of how sometimes TradingView screws up in the late game, in the late time. So what I'm going to do is I'm still going to confirm it just to see if I would have gotten it. Otherwise, it's whatever, right? So price comes up. Does it break the structure? Nope. So just looking for, okay, so there is a structural break here. And for me, that would have been valid. This is probably going to be absorption if price was live. Sometimes TradingView just has an issue where it doesn't do that. But for me, I'm pretty sure that you can see this is on the 55 dot, and this ended that minute. So that minute candle is still within there, right? So you can see how, even though it might look different on there, for me, this is still the concept of absorption happening, and we just broke. So for me, I'm happy to go ahead and confirm this. Basically, we can find the last down move. You could say it's this one, and then we can refine that, right? That's just the MB. Here's the MB. Here's the 50%. You can see that last up move before the down move. This makes a lot of sense, right? We can re-refine just to make sure, right to there. It makes the most sense, but we'll leave both on because they both make sense. And we'll look for a price to tap in to one of those areas. Oh, it does tap in actually. So I'm sorry. Let's go to the 1 second. Just double check. Right. So price comes to tap in, and it actually gives us, you can see, an MB1, right? Breaks, MB2, makes the break. So right now, as long as no new MB forms, I'm actually valid for myself to take a buy off of the last down move. So I'm just going to take a buy off this MB. We can protect, 0.5 pips. Because it's on the low, I'll protect it at 1 pip just to be fair about that. So let's see if we can get an entry on this, and we'll take it higher. Let's see if we get an entry on this. Nope. Right, so then the second this candle breaks above, we have a new MB in there. So this is canceled, and I'm no longer interested in taking a trade there, right? So very simple, just following along. And this is also not important anymore. We can go back to the 5 seconds, see if there's a reason or a double MB that we can use now, right? So we had that MB1, follow this up. We have an MB2, right? That came from, so you can see it came from here, right? But then there was also this wick below. So this is like that triple M, and it actually opened down here. So for me, I'm happy to use this as my zone to confirm. So if I get another double MB on a 1 second inside of here, I'm happy to use that to go long. And now again, you can see that you would have already been long on this play down here if you use a normal double MB, right? So if you weren't like me, you'd already be in this buy, right? Off of 1, 2, and you're in that buy. But for me, I'm not, so I'm waiting for a retap into there. Let's see if we get that. Okay, so we're coming close to it. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to look at the left here and make sure that it makes sense, the range I'm in, right? So we broke once, we came down, we broke twice. That's our double MB, right? Then we came down, and then we broke 3 times. So we have a triple MB going topside, and that's coming from here. So I'm not, even though this might set up, I can't really use it unless we get it dip below this low and then a continuation higher. So for me, there's nothing really to do here, even if it sets up nicely, right? So I'm just going to wait, see if it gets below that low. Doesn't look like it wants to. Yeah, so nothing for me there. So I'll go back to the 5 seconds. So this is just an example of how a day could be, very boring for me and nothing might happen. Because the 5 second is getting kind of exhausted, we've had a few ranges form here. I'm going to take a look at what my 15 is telling me and see what the 15... So the 15 is coming from the same area, but it's only broken once, you can see right here. And that break pretty much came from, if we follow it, right, I mean, somewhere in here, but if we really wanted to follow it, we have this wick, right? So this whole thing's a wick just under this candle. So we can also look here to confirm. So what we'll do is we'll confirm that with a 1 second if we get down there. Okay, cool. So we'll jump down into the 1 second, just take a look at where we are, right? We break down into it. This is no longer important too. We break down into it. I mean, that's coming from here, so we just have a ways to wait until we can even consider a buy. So we'll see if this breaks above that high. So again, we know that this is the 15-second low, right? And you can see this close on the 09, right? So we can still see price wick down and come up, and we know that if it's not on the 15-second close, we can still trade it because it's part of the absorption of the price. Right, so we're just waiting for some kind of either new low or for price to basically trade above this high, because that's where the entire range was formed from. Other than that, it doesn't really matter, right? So we're just waiting, nothing to do, right? There you go. So price comes and dips below, right? And that's at 40, 42, right? So we're still, so the candle will close right here at 45, because this is off that 15-second chart, right? So for me, happy to use it. Happy to continue with it, right? So what I'm going to look for now is a break of the structure that created that down move, right? Here's a down move from that high. So all I'm looking for is a break of that structure, and then we can look to start entering, right? Because this is still part of, oh, sorry, that's part of that 5 second. Oh, so actually this might be invalidated. Let's double check, right? 39, 40. So actually, I think this might be invalidated. Let's go to 5 second. Yeah, there you go, right? So the 5 second did actually get invalidated by that. Oh wait, this was a 15 second, wasn't it? Yeah, it was. So we're still good. It's still absorbing on the 15 second. So we're good to confirm that. So my bad, I made a mistake there, which is good because we can switch time frames. So we're looking for the break of that, right? So there we go, we got a break of that. Now again, for some of you, you might already be in on this as you see another MB and then go. But for me, as you know, I like to limit now. I've been testing a lot of limits, so I'll wait for a double break, right? So we'll wait here. So for me, it's not another break yet, right? We're just making these higher highs. I want to see some kind of shift in order flow here before we look to continue. Okay, there we go. So now if we break the high, I'll look to buy, right? So just wait and see. Okay, taps into there. Now it's the perfect time to go ahead and long. Now again, this is a 1 second chart, and you can see it's on the 56. So again, if price ends down here, we know it's invalidating this S&D as part of that zone on the very left. So we just have to keep that in mind, right? So it comes up 57, 58, 59. Does it come right back up into it? No, it doesn't. So we know, so a lot of people would still continue to watch this, and it might even go long now, but we've invalidated that point on a 15 second, right? Wait, have we? Yeah, we have. You can see even barely, right? We've actually properly invalidated it, and we can see that by the actual time. So even though it's going long here, it doesn't really matter to me, right? But because we're not, we can now go back to the 5 second. So we're going to move this over to the, because this was part of this entire mitigation, right? But the 5 second, as we know, has now rebroken bearish, right? So bearish, and I think it broke that. Yeah, it did, bearish. Right, and then what it's done right after that is it actually rebroke bullish with this move here, which means I'm valid to go from here for a buy, right? So again, I'm following the ranges that are created, and I'm within, I still remember I'm within the absorbed 1 minute zone as part of this entire thing, right? So again, if you're not remembering where you are on the higher time frames, you're gonna walk into a big roadblock as you're doing this. But this is how, you know, I do it so quickly every single time because I've done it so many times. So we'll go to the 1 second, and once again, we'll look to see if we can confirm that move. Again, I've never traded GBP NZD, so, you know, this is new to me, but it's fun. So once again, as we're looking at this, the 1 second has made its break. So what I'll look for now is if we break again, I'll actually look to enter the buy and continue long because it makes sense here as a double MB. So we'll see if we get that, right? So it makes a low just below it. Does it do it on the 5 second? Nope, it does it on the 02. So we know that on a higher time frame, this is a wick of the 5 second candle. I'm not going to go up because I don't want to I don't know, I don't want to make it go ahead of where it is, but we know that's going to be a wick, and I'll show you guys that later. So we're going to wait for that break now, see if we get it. All right, we get another impulse, see if we get this break right here. Okay, there we go. We get that break right there. So at this point, we have the last down move before the up move that really came from here. So what I'll do is I'll actually set up a limit there. So again, a lot of you might have already been in on this, right? You have MB1, MB2, and this could just run now, but this is how... Excuse me. So this is just how it's gonna, you know, sometimes it's gonna be like that. That's fine. What I'm gonna do is I'm gonna set a 1 pip stop, and I'm also gonna set a entry right here on the last down move, and make this a 1 pip stop as well. Yep. So we're gonna have 2RR running on this if we get in, or I mean, we're gonna have 2RR risked overall on this if we get an entry. So let's take a look at what happens. Okay, so it comes up. If we make a new MB, then I'm out of this. So this is still valid. It can still come down. If it breaks this high now, I'm done. Yep, so there we go. Breaks the high. These are both invalidated because once again, just like the other time frames, we started shifting MBs, so it's not good to follow it anymore. We can jump up a time frame just to double check where we are, right? We've still only made 1 MB on the 5 second, right? That's your 1 MB. Came down and then made the second MB with this break. So that move came from right here or right here. So if price returns right now without making a third MB, I'm happy to take a buy from down here because, you know, we have a good amount of space from here to here to capitalize on a long. So once again, I'm just going to play this forward, see if we come down there. You can see we made a low, underpriced, and then broke again. So again, triple MB happening, not really happy to take it. Go up a time frame, just double check where I am. And lo and behold, we now have the break of, we have number 1 break right here, MB1, right? Price comes down, liquidates this low just barely. You can see it liquidates it. So makes a low and a high, breaks it. We have an MB1, right? Breaks it, MB1. So now if it comes back down, I'm happy to actually use that to go long, right? So again, we're just following the story of what price is putting forward, and now we can go long from here if price comes back. And this is all just part of building that story over time, and that's all built from that still daily area, right? Boom, price delivers. Does it, I don't think on the 1 minute it's taken out yet. Nope, it's not, so we'll keep playing. Let's take it out. Okay, so that goes above it, and that's on the 22. So yep, the 1 minute's been taken out. There you go. Just like that, and we're done with that range, right? So we tested that range very nicely. We actually held it, if you remember. It's just trading view error right here. Then broke the high. So once again, now what we're looking at is a MB shift, test, MB shift, MB shift, MB shift, MB shift. And at that point, you know, you can pretty much stop trading these, but because of how clean this break is and the fact that we've mitigated this before, the concept of MB clusters begins to creep in, right? So what we have is, you know, smart money accumulation and then MB clusters holding themselves. So the reality is we could actually have one more cluster that then holds price and has it explode, and we're still within the overall bias, right? So again, I will look to confirm to go long there. So let's go ahead and take a look at this. So that would be our zone now, and now we're just waiting for price to come and tap into that if we want to get a trade, right? So if it does tap into that, so it's failing to go above, right? It's absorbing. Now it might get a move down. Nope, just breaks above. And now at this point, you know, we're starting to form the SNDs on the top side here. None of this matters to me. This is all canceled. At this point, what I'm looking at is I'm looking for price to shift back bearish and then shift bullish again before I even consider a long. So for me, we're done for now. We're just going to let it play, right? So just starts playing. That's fine. We're missing whatever we need to miss. That's no problem. It's part of the game. Now, a lot of you, as you know, when we spoke about in here and even in here and even in here, right, you saw how many opportunities you had off of triple M's and off fractalized double MBs and off normal double MBs with buy stops. This is part of what occurs to your strategy if you're someone that wants to do limits. Being a limit person means that you're going to miss a lot of very nice trades. And, you know, there's risk and reward associated with that as well. So for me, you know, I'm happy with it. I'm fine with it on EU because it's much more liquid. I feel like pairs just like to set up more. Like if it feels like as if that setup we looked at in there would have set up nicely and actually been tapped and continue. But, you know, this is part of it. And I'm sure if I tested more GNZD, we could get a trade. But, you know, we still have a few hours left in this day. So maybe we'll get a trade, right? So right now you can see it's actually shifting bearish. So that's really good. Now, in my mind, instantly, you know, we've only tapped just the open of this, and there's a good chance we can come for it or even liquidate the zone. So sells aren't crazy, right? And it makes sense to be a seller to the downside, even though we're overall bullish. So what I'm going to do is I still will confirm sells inside of here to keep going short, just like this, right? But I'm just cognizant of the fact that this could easily be one of those reaccumulations, right? That then just wants to run higher, right? And then we can continue doing that, right? But we can switch our bias as we go. So let's see if we get a tap into there. So make some lows, that's fine. We're still part of that overall move, right? Now we have MB1, MB2. You know, I don't really want to use this anymore. Like you have both of these, right? They're still technically valid. We'll just see what kind of moves we get from them. So price comes in, it's probably going to break down, but for me right now, I don't care to use it because of that higher time frame bias. So usually if this was on the other side, if that was down here, I would use it, right? And you saw me do that throughout that following of price. But here, I'm not willing to do that, even though it might go short, right? I don't really care. So it comes a little deeper, and now I'm actually happy to confirm this if it gives me a nice entry, right? Why? Because we're deep in a zone and we have a good amount to run if we are to get that confirm. So we'll wait, right? We'll just wait for a shift if we get one. Is this on the minute yet? So the minute will end in about 10 seconds. Let's see if it ends and where it ends. Boom, boom, one more. Yep, so there we go. Minute ends above, so we know that that has shifted up, right? And now what we have is a scenario where there's a double MB still valid from this MB1, MB2, and that's from here. However, there's an inside MB shifting right here and created this very nice zone here. So I'm still feeling this is much more probable than this. Why? Because of the underlying narrative of what's occurring about where we're coming from and where that's coming from on that higher time frame and what it just did after a few weeks of building up that range and breaking it, right? So again, we're painting a picture and we know about what that picture is. So again, I'll ask you all right now, pause this video and tell me about where exactly I am in this move from a daily to the 1 hour to the 15 minute to the 1 minute to, in this case, yeah, to why I'm looking to confirm this. And if you can do that, then, you know, maybe the seconds time frame is something that's for you. Otherwise, you got to really put some more work in, right? So let's see if we get a tap into there. If we do, we can look to, okay, cool. So we do get a tap into there. We'll look to confirm that. I'm not really interested in the zone. It's like a very, so this zone is less probable. I actually want to target that zone and take it out because it makes more sense under the overall assumption of what price is doing, right? So we'll go back to the 5 second and see if we can confirm that. All right, so price comes in. Doesn't really make a nice high or low. That's still coming from here, so there's really nothing to confirm, sadly. Maybe it'll just break down now. There we go. Okay, so it breaks down. Once again, this is a minute time frame range, right? And that was made, so let's see. So we still have some time. So price can still trade above this and absorb that area. So let's see if it does that. Right, so price still has time. Nope, so right there, price closed, right? So at that point, we know that's a break back down. We're back in the bearish mode, and we can keep following that short now. Right now, again, there's even more entries on the 15 and 30, but I'm not even going to look at those. I'm just going to follow the 1 minute here. Right, so we have a break short again, and it's still, now we're building up lows here. The next range of that low would be here. So if we get a move back up into this S&D right here, or this one right here, so now we can refine a little bit. We can maybe go 30 seconds, see where we are. Right, comes up, price comes down, makes this high, makes this low. So really, it just makes most sense to have a refinement right here, and I don't really care about this zone, right? So again, this is just part of, you know, subsection 6 to section 2, just normal refinement. Maybe this whole video will just be me without getting a single trade, or maybe I'll take a break even or a loss, and that'll be a good time. But it's important that you guys see what my normal, you know, when I step on the charts, what I normally do. And I just do this on repeat, and, you know, that's how it is. So we'll go here and wait for price to tap. It taps in right there. So we'll jump down a time frame once again to the 5 second. You can see, even though there's this inside structure here, the 5 second is still from this high to this low. That's still the impulse there, right? So really nothing to do. Price taps above. Maybe if it closes back in, we can consider it. No, nothing there, right? So again, just comes right above it. More invalidation. That's part of the game. That's how we play this game. Now, once again, we have this zone up here. We should ask ourselves if it makes sense. We'll go to a 5 second, see if we can make sense of this zone, right? You can see up here, price comes and doesn't really make any good high, right? The highs made here, all these highs made here are coming from this low, and then when it broke, that actually did come from, yeah, from right here. So in this case, we actually do have a refined zone that makes sense to be used, and price is coming right into it. And now we're on the 5 second, and we can follow that mitigation forward, right? So what we have here is this low making this high. So really, if I get a break of this, I'm happy to start confirming short again, right? And then we can look to short. So let's see if we get that. Nothing. See if we get a break of that. Boom. So we get a break right there. And what we'll do is now we'll draw in the last up move before the down move. Now, because of this little gap right here, I will actually incorporate the MB of that move, and I will confirm here for a short. So see if price comes and taps into that. So nope, instead it makes this high and breaks down. So now we have a double MB. I still like this area here. It makes sense. And because of the imbalance, I'm not even going to consider this point right here. So this is what you'd consider. Now, if it breaks down lower, I'll consider it just like that. So now I'm happy to consider this point for a sell. Right, makes a new high, breaks down. So again, triple MB formed, not really interested in it. Doesn't really make sense to continue, even though it might run the lows. It's okay. It's part of the game. Go back to the 1 minute. Check a look at where we are, right? So we break structure again. Beautiful. And now we've once again put in a double MB, right? MB1, MB2, MB cluster scenario where it now makes sense to be a short. And again, we have a reason to go short because of what we spoke about here, right? We had that move. We had our good mitigation. If people got involved on that, that's great, right? There's a lot of double MBs in there that a lot of you with your systems would have gotten involved on, but now it makes sense for price to come deeper into here and maybe set up again, right? Otherwise, if it doesn't, where could price be heading, right? Notice the 5 minute is still, if you follow the range, here. And price is failing, right? So remember we spoke about this mitigation, but remember we also found that 1 minute zone up here. So again, this is all about understanding how to think fractally and always remembering where you're at. Otherwise, you know, you might have to be on a higher time frame so you don't have to do this quickly. That's where price hit. Now, again, I'm not going to use that because, you know, I forgot to leave it on there, so it's fine. But there was great trades in there. And notice how we were shifting bearish when this began to break down. And now we can shift bearish again. Why? Because it makes sense that we're coming from that point. And now it makes sense to liquidate the next range of that, which is here, which also makes sense in terms of coming deeper into this S&D for more mitigation or full-on liquidation, right? So again, we can now follow this move forward because it makes sense to do so off this 1 minute to continue short. So once again, MB cluster is forming off of that area at the top. This is no longer important at all, right? It's shifted way beyond that. And what we'll do here is we can draw out our last up move before the down move, or the last unmitigated move, right? Remember, it doesn't have to be a green candle. It can be a red one too. And we'll keep watching it. Cool. So now because we've broken down a little bit, I'm going to go 2 minute. Just check it out where I am, right? You can see we made this huge impulse off the 2 minute. It's still coming really from this low here. So price is beginning to approach that, and you can see there is no lack of mitigation. The only unmitigated portion of the 2 minute is here, right? So it would make a lot of sense for price to potentially stop here and then go long into here before the short. But this is very low probability because of the type of zone it is. You can see everything got mitigated on the way up. Oh, actually, with the exception of this right here, right there, right? So actually that would be the only area to use, and you can see it just got below it. So I will actually not use this, right? So this is why it's sometimes important to be able to spot what you understand and just follow through, right? So yeah, that actually means that, no, yeah, that's all. So we'll wait for price to potentially come up there if it wants to. So let's see if it does. Okay, it looks like it broke down again. So we have MB cluster, breakdown, impulse, breakdown. So nothing to do there. I don't want to use this anymore. It's no longer needed. It's still overall bearish potentially. I could see that still heading towards this low. So we could follow that on a lower time frame or even this time frame. But once again, we have a really poor range to use here. Again, it's very small. So even though the rules might be met, I'm not interested in it, right? We can look at a 5 second just to double check. So really just looking at this, if we do get if we get a move just above this high and then a breakdown below here, I actually will confirm that with a 1 second. That's the last thing I'll do though. So we don't get a move above, right? So it's important that we get that move above because it's showing me where an impulse is coming from. So we're waiting to see if we get a move above. So nothing right now. Right, so there's our move above. Very nice. Now we want to break below this. So we'll see if we get a break below that. Nope. Nope. Cool. So now we want to get a break below here. And again, remember this is a 1 minute, so that's on 18:05. So this closed here, so it has a few seconds to come back under. It could absorb. Right, so there we go. Playing around. Let's see if it absorbs. Kind of absorbed. See if we get a break below right here. Nope, not yet. Okay, comes up on the 20 seconds, so we're still good to go. So maybe absorption, and then we break down. Let's see. So next one has to break down, or else it's canceled. Right, so there you go, and it's canceled. Right, very simple. We go to the 1 minute now, and once again we have a break structure bullish. So again, we're going back and forth, and that's fine. That's part of the game. And now that we're shifting bullish after a larger bearish run, could mean we're in a bigger reaccumulation on a higher time frame, which would make sense too as part of the mitigation. Continuation, big move down with the bearish moves from there. Overall, we're holding that 5 minutes, so we're still bearish, and I think we just broke this low. So at this point, we go to the 2 minute to double check that, and you can see that it's true. We did break that low down, which means that 1 minute that was up here as part of that MB cluster has now became valid as part of this 2 minute, and now we can double check that with the 3 minute to make sure it makes sense. Right, the 3 minute, you can see did the same thing. Same low, moves up, breaks that, and once again, I like this up candle. So right here, I'm happy to actually confirm that to go short now, right? So notice that even though we understand, the higher time frame, daily bearish in here. The 1 hour, as we zoom into there, had a bearish time for a while, delivered just below that low, then just came and broke that high after some time. So it really wasn't like this and broke that high. As it did that, created a mitigated zone inside that made that zone. Price is now coming towards that, right? During the start of this session, we came into it. We were looking for sells along 1 minute. Actually, we came into just the open of it. 1 minute gave the MB entries. Based on what you were trading, there's a ton of entries in here, as you all know, but that's okay. We can miss trades. And took off. Didn't deliver to the high as we wanted. Instead, hit a 5 minute range and failed to go past it, and instead pushed back down. Didn't even absorb it. So, a very good supply zone. And as it pushed down, began to create new 1 minute sells. Didn't give us the sells. Broke down into 5 minute, or in this case 3 minute breaks, and now we're reconfirming the 3 minute to now continue this move short to finish off potential deeper mitigation in that overall S&D zone, right? So again, I can demonstrate to you exactly where I am in this market at this given time, because once again, I've done it forever and I'm just following it along. So even though, we're overall bullish, it makes sense to me to see the bearishness give us new bullish plays potentially, right? So again, we're just going to follow that. We'll see if we get a tap in, right? So nope, comes up, comes down, right? You can see these are all wicks. They're all just holding each other, right? So I'm not going to use anything in here. Instead, we can switch down to a 2-minute and double check what's going on, right? So as we do that, you can see we have a 2-minute break, 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 break. And even though this is valid to use for a sell, so actually we'll draw this out too. So I like both of them. I still like this area a lot more, right? So we'll see what type of confirm we get there if we do. All right, so price comes up into it. We'll jump down to the 5-second and see if we can confirm that down, right? I want to see price come deeper into it. I don't want to see it go short right now. I don't like that. I want to see it come deeper. It just makes more sense to have it come deeper because of how impulsive this was. If it stops here, I will consider an entry on it on the 1 second in this case. So there we go. Comes right above it, just like I thought. All good. Reaccumulation happening. Probably going to come and wipe it, but if it comes back down, I'm happy to use the area. Right, so breaks back down. Happy to use this as a portion to sell. Why this up candle and not this one? See this gap right here? I don't want to refine here because it doesn't make sense to me. And you see the lack of mitigation here? This makes sense to me. I'll look for a confirmation there. See if it comes up. Okay, starts coming up. We have a nice range formed. See if it touches. Oh, just misses it by a little bit. That happens. If we get no entry, there's no entry. You can see, just missed it by a little bit. That's fine. It's part of the game. Okay, so we do come into it. Jump down to that 1 second. And now I can double MB confirm this now, right? So let's see if we get that. Begins to make a bullish run, right? Does it hold the high? That's on the 30. So that we know is a 5-second shift. Boom, 5-second shifted, and we're back in bullish, right? So again, zone's not holding. It's all part of it. Now we can still see a deeper push into here now. Maybe we'll get a low, and then we'll break down again. So let's see if we get that. Okay, nothing yet. Not really interested in it. Boom, there's a high made. Here's a low. Maybe we break that low. Let's find out. Nope. New high made off of this low. Let's see if we break that down. Nope. Nice little distribution. Let's see if we break that down now. Right, so there we go. We break that right there. So we can follow this actually for a short now, right? Just keep following along. So we have a break of structure right there, and you can see that came from this up move. Now we can refine that up move to this last wick right here. You see that wick? So we can refine that to there. Now, similarly, as we follow this, you'll notice that price broke, came and tapped the MB, and then broke. So really, we're inside of its own S&D. So this is where it can get a little crazy, but if you're following moves, it can make a lot of sense too. So we'll get rid of that. We'll just leave this up. Maybe we'll just fill in the gap. Really, it's the whole area, but that's fine. We'll jump down to a 1 second to double check where we are and see if there's an entry that's worthy of taking, right? So for me, we have this most recent MB, right, that formed that high. We'll just follow that down. Just broke that structure down, right? MB1, MB2. So right now, I'm actually valid to go for a short off of that area. So, I would have been watching this much faster, but it's part of the game. So I'll take a short there, 1 pip stop. I'll take a short here just because it makes sense. And you can see that that's part of this potential up move. And then it comes, makes a little candle here. So there's a little bit of volume in there, comes up and breaks right through it. So I'm happy to take that up here, right? Just like that. Now, because of the fact, yeah, actually this makes sense. So that's what we'll look to take. Let's see if we can get break even on this trade now. So we're in the trade, right? It comes a little deeper, so you're all good. Even if you set that a little bit after, it's all good. All right, in that trade now, see if we get a breakdown. Okay, so we get a breakdown. So now if it breaks one more time, that's a break even. Why? Because we made a lower high, and now we were looking for one more break to get out of this. And because we broke this structure right here, this trade is canceled. So all we have is this trade running, and we'll have that target set up, as we need to the lows, right? Zoom back in, all good. And now we can watch for that break even, see if we get it. Nope, takes out a loss. Beautiful, fantastic. Take that -1 on that and rinse and repeat. So there's your -1, and we'll go ahead and jump back into the 1 minute, right? And there you go, is your shift right above there. So again, just showing you what it can look like, right? And you can very quickly see. So I think we're probably going to end it out there for one loss, so you guys realize what it's like to actually trade these lower time frames, especially when you're trying to do limits, and how many times you're actually going to be wrong before you might be right? But you can very quickly see how these add up. Just that 1 minute range, right? We're talking around a 1 to 15, and just the run back into what we suspected to be a deeper mitigation. I mean, you can start to see that's in the 1 to 45 level areas, right? So that is what it looks like to basically get on and start to follow the market as per maybe your session, or change your mind, not change your mind, but allow the higher time frame understanding and the bias to influence what you're doing on the charts, right? And then what we'll do is we'll just exit this because I'm getting kind of tired and my food just got here. So I'm just gonna show you what occurred, right? So price does indeed come up through here, test somewhere in here, but we had a refinement that didn't allow it to be tested. Re-break back down, create a new zone off of that breakdown, still with the bias probably to come into here. Probably another great entry in there that maybe would have actually ran. I'm not going to go and break that down right now. So, that's something for you to do. Comes back into the zone as we would have wanted. Begin to confirm it to go long. Breaks long, invalidates. So we're all good. Absorbs, continues long, goes back short, goes short right, comes deeper. Then again begins to break long. Again, for anyone that's just normal double MB entries, beautiful entries down here, beautiful runs, comes back into it. And now we're Asian session, it looks like. So you would have been just out for the day, wherever you might have been. And that's an example of how I take a higher time frame bias and use it with lower time frame biases to start looking for what, I show you guys in section 4 as my overall entry criteria. And now you can see how that looks and how it can look in a live setting, to say the least, right? And again, this is on something that's completely random. I've never looked at GBP and ZD in my life. Very probably illiquid in comparison to like EU and stuff like that. But you can see it's all the same thing on repeat. And that's really it, right? So there's your -1. You could see how I was looking to break even that. Didn't get that, but that's all good. And there you have it, guys. So thank you so much. I hope you enjoyed this. I hope it made some sense to you, how I approach it from a multi-time frame perspective, and how I change my range or bias or change time frames based on my understanding of what price is delivering currently, right? You can see how experience plays a big role in this, and why I tell you guys to basically aim to journal before you go live or anything like that. You need to experience it. All right, thanks, guys. See you next one.